Welcome, everybody, to a very special episode of the Movie Mechanics Podcast, where today I have the special honor of speaking with comedian, podcaster, and advisor of all things womanly. She is the host of the Chrissie Mayr podcast, Sitcast, and Wet Spot on Compound America. She is also touring a stand-up comedy routine with shows coming up in Levittown, New York, Savannah, Georgia, and Tampa, Florida. Today, I welcome Ms. Chrissie Mayr. Chrissie, thank you for coming on the show.
Yay, thank you for having me. Thank you for
having me. It's so
having
lovely to have you. And I want to start out by telling you a story. Having consumed a lot of your content over the last few days,
I
think you'll like this story.
Okay.
About a year ago, my wife was confronted in a grocery store over not wearing a mask.
Oh, God. Okay. I already love this story.
At the time, there was no mask mandate either by the government or the store, but this old guy comes up to her anyway.
What state was this?
This is in Phoenix.
Okay.
And he says, "You're not wearing a mask." And she says, "I'm not wearing any underwear either. Would you like to talk about that too?"
That's perfect.
How do you feel about everyone suddenly being in everyone else's business all the time?
It's really crazy. And I don't know if it's like just a getting older thing, but I'm like, yeah, why would you not be a grown adult and on the side of stay out of my business? Like the fact that that people are not about that, like pandemic or no pandemic, like it's just, but that's the thing. The pandemic has made a lot of allowances for people to be in each other's businesses and like has really emboldened the mentally ill. That's what I've noticed. Like this is the time for them to shine. If you've been a germaphobe, if you're like kind of a closeted control freak, if you like if your own life is chaos and you want to avoid it, like it's the perfect excuse for you to obsess about other people. And we just see these people coming out of the woodwork. And I had a fight in a nail salon Christmas Eve with a Karen who was yelling at me and my mother-in-law to put on masks. And like the ladies at the nail salon didn't care because we were like regular customers. And so, but we were on either side of her, like she was in the middle and we're talking about the dogs. We're like yelling kind of over her. And she's just like, we're seeing her get like more and more like foaming at the mouth. And she's like, "You're not wearing masks." And we were like, "Yeah, okay, I guess not." Everyone's fine with it though. She's like, "I'm not fine with it." And then so the nail lady's like, whatever, they're rolling their eyes. They're giving us masks. And like, normally I would say no, but like I was mid nail, like it was already happening. So I was like, okay, I forgot to put it on just to shut her up. But did she shut up? No, they moved her to, then we both took them down because we both had drinks and we know the loophole of like mask down. And I was just like, it was just taking me a very long time to finish my drink. I don't know. Something about this pandemic has made me such a slow drinker. So I'm just like, and plus I didn't know my mother-in-law were doing the same thing at the same time. She's like, I have to be moved. I don't feel safe. They move her all the way down to the end, the last, possible little station she could sit at. So, okay, 20 minutes go by, they finish up. And then me and like mother-in-law look at each other. We're like, when she leaves, let's say Merry Christmas, Karen, because this is Christmas Eve. You figure like what could go wrong? It's Christmas, everybody. And so she walks away. She's there with a daughter who looks maybe like somewhere between 14 and 16. And so as she leaves, we go, "Merry Christmas, Karen." And I don't think the mom heard. The mom was like a little older than me, probably like 40s, 50s. I don't know. And then the daughter's like, "Did you hear, Mom? They said Merry Christmas, Karen." And then she came over, like got in my face, yelling. I how dare I have to educate you. I had to educate this whole nail salon about what to do. Like she was like, whoop, the high horse was right there. And all she had to do was like, she was just waiting to get on it. And and I was like, this is how so many people think, that it takes almost nothing for them to be like, I have to educate you. Like they show themselves for what they really think they are, which is better than everybody else, somehow cleanlier than everybody else, smarter than everybody else. I don't know if these people are teachers, but and I hate to like shit on teachers because my sister's a teacher, but like there's something about teachers, they have it in them to get preachy like very quickly.
True.
And like, I'm sure, I mean, they're not all crazy. Like my sister's not one of the crazy ones. But I was just so blown away. And then so finally this woman leaves and we're like kind of laughing. Was the altercation over? Nope. She comes back in with her gigantic black husband. And I'm not there's anything wrong with having a black husband, but like She brought him in. He's like this big hulking, like basically a refrigerator wearing a button down, and of course he has a mask on too. He also comes in to yell right in my face. And I'm like, the type of woman that brings her husband into a nail salon, like a petty argument. You know what I mean? Like we weren't like coming to blows, me and her. We were not, it's not a thing. Like there's no need to bring like another person into this, let alone like your giant husband. So I was like, okay, the effect she wants to have is to intimidate me. And I was like, this is kind of an example of like everybody, I'm sorry, like all the crazy leftists right now. And this is coming from like, I was a regular liberal, like not that long ago. To now be a classic liberal is to be seen as alt-right just because of how things have shifted. But yeah, this guy is yelling in my face. And then now I'm not realizing, like, my mother-in-law gets up and she's like, don't talk to her like that. Oh, well, she shouldn't talk to my wife like that. And it's like, well, mother-in-law's like, she's a grown woman. She can handle her own fights. And the guy's like, well, she's a grown woman. And it's like, and then the guy said to her, like, do you want to take this outside? This man says to a 60-year-old woman, do you want to take this outside? And she said, let's go right now. And I turn around. There's 3 Asians holding back my mother-in-law. There's 3 Asians holding back the guy. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening? And so finally they leave. And then the cops come. And I was like, why did the cops come? Did the crazy Karen call the cops on us? But then we realized, and this is like what I kind of love about Asian ladies. Asian ladies are like, okay, low key a little racist. As soon as they saw the husband coming in, they immediately called the cops.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I mean, thank God nothing happened. But it was just so funny to me that like I could have sworn the Karen had called the cops on like me, because people have been calling. Just the other day, this diner we go to, somebody called the health department on them. And I was like, these people just won't let well enough alone. And it has, and I'm sorry, I'm going on and on. It's like, and you realize, okay, it has nothing to do with the businesses. Like the most businesses, at least where I live in Westchester County and like upstate New York, they're fine to just let people do whatever they want. But it's these individuals, these power hungry individuals that are like, oh no, I'm going to put a stop to that. Like you have to wear a mask because it makes me more comfortable. And I'm like, this is exactly what I think they want, is like the government to have civilians like do their bidding, basically.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if it had been me, I probably would have been like, when they got in my face, right?
Oh,
sorry,
right. I should
I've
be
got
like,
this
oh,
little
all of a
cough out of my-
sudden, I wish I could sneeze on command. That would be such a great skill.
Right.
Just like, achoo, droplets,
So you recently.
Sorry to ramble. I just get very fired up.
No, not at all. Most of the guests on here do tend to ramble, so I'm perfectly prepared for a ramble.
Yeah, just cut it out. Yeah.
You were on a podcast called Nerdrotic.
Yeah.
Just a few days ago. You did
Um,
a hilarious impression of Frosk, the
Thank
G4
you.
TV girl who just went on that
new.
rant, right, about the male gaze.
I'm so new to this like gaming world, and it makes me laugh because the more I learn about like the gaming internet world, it's so similar to like the comedy internet world. Like there's these spheres of, I guess, almost like it can be like high school like drama sometime, and there's like the people to know and who's in what fight and who's cool and who's not. And but like I never heard of G4 until I saw this clip of Frosk, and I was like, Gary had like messaged me. He was like, do you happen to have a blonde wig? Or like, did you see Frosk the other day? And I was like, yeah, I did see the blonde lady. I'm like, she's nuts. And he was like, do you happen to have a blonde wig? I was like, I think we're thinking the same thing. I was like, and this was like, it happened. And then it happened on a Thursday. And then I think Friday Night Tights was the next day, Friday. So I went to just like, and this is like one thing I really excel at, is like unstable women like really inspire me. And it's fun to me to like have the project and the challenge of like, okay, learn this woman, listen to how she talks, try to get either the accent down or some kind of a verbal tick or cue, or like what part of the country is she from? And then I'll listen to a recording like multiple times on mute so I can get down the physicality, like how do they move? How do they carry themselves? Like how's their posture? And so I ended up making the nose ring out of a ring I already had. I just like broke it in half and like bent it up into my nose, and it like really hurt. But I was like, I have to do this for the character. And then I just bought a regular wig from Party City and just cut it into a mullet and then sprayed it white. And then the white made it so crispy. And then it was also like flaking down my face the whole time. But I was like, no, this is important. I'm creating art. No,
No,
but
it
it
was
was
so
fun.
funny. I loved how you were like, how dare you jerk off to me, and how dare you not jerk off to me? That was
Yes, because I was like, all right, and I'm not just gonna shit on people for no reason. I was like, and nothing personal towards this girl Frost. Like, if she ever hears this, like, I have no hard feelings to people. Are like, has she blocked you yet? And I'm like, okay, no, not yet. Like, I don't know her personally. I'm just like, we all play a role, and I'm like kind of making fun of that role. So basically, I'm like, okay, what I see is a person who might be insecure, which everyone is insecure. Like, I have insecurities, like everyone's got something that makes them feel bad about themselves. But I'm like, she is like drawing attention to her insecurity. And I think she was comparing herself to her predecessors. And I was like, she seems fixated on whether or not people are jerking off to her. So I was like, okay, I'll just play with that idea. And she'll just ask everybody in the show. I was like going down the line, have you ever jerked off to me? Have you ever jerked off to me? And then they all kept saying no. And I had like nothing written for a response. I just was like, wouldn't that be a funny? And so they kept saying no. And I was like, wow, wasn't expecting that. All right, moving on. Like, I had my real person response came out, and I broke character a ton because her specific voice is kind of maybe Boston or Canada. And as much as you can practice it, the minute we were live, I think I dipped back into my Long Island accent. I was like, ah, fuck. But thank God enough people liked it and laughed. And like, that's really all it's like such an amazing feeling to make thousands of people laugh. And like, you don't have to leave your house. Like, especially after 10 years of like busting my ass doing stand up and like doing the road and running around New York City. It's like, just the internet is like kind of an amazing place sometimes.
yeah. Oh my gosh, he killed it on that Frosk impression.
It was fun. Yeah, it
So
was so
fun.
fun. And I really give like the Friday Night Tights guys so much credit, and X-Ray Girl, because they play a perfect like straight man role. That's what I like about Odin. He's very good at he may not intentionally mean to, but he's very good as a straight man. So if I'm being a crazy character, it's good to have somebody straight to like bounce off of, because then when you get a real response, it makes what I do, even gives it more of an impact. But if
Yeah.
you have somebody who is also trying to be funny, it doesn't like hit as hard, because but those guys are all funny too. Like, I've seen Ryan is so funny, Odin is funny, but I think they've learned, like, when I'm doing a character, they have to like, they just, it's weird because I never tell anybody how to react. Like, I think the characters have gone from like me doing kind of a monologue and then like piecing out to now I like interact with them as this. I don't know. It's really weird, but I love it. It's fun.
Yeah, I thought you had some good reactions from them, and the way that you responded, it was each a little bit different, and so it hit every time. So I thought it was great.
That's the thing, is they're also smart and funny and so good at what they do. So I'm just happy that they let me come on at all and like do something goofy and then like hang back.
Yeah. Now you did an interview recently with a guy named Hotep Jesus, and you had some
Yes.
yeah, you had some discussion about whether it was okay for a man to discuss his feelings with a woman, and that was kind of a point of discussion between you because you said, "Of course it's okay," and he was like, "Hell no, can't do that." And I was like, maybe they're both thinking of different things when they envision a man
Mm,
sharing his feelings. And so I was like, maybe that's where the
okay.
dispute
Maybe.
lies. So,
Yeah.
so
That
what do
I
you
wonder when that
envision when you
was.
when you say men sharing their feelings?
I think well, our first example of like a man how they act is always like, I think it's our father. So I think I was imprinted from growing up, like my dad never talked about his feelings at all. Like, he and my mom too like didn't really get along. They never really brought each other up or gassed each other up. Like, they barely were friends, I feel like, or at least they didn't show it. I think they very much stayed together for the kids is what happened. But from the outside looking in, I'm like, oh, they don't like each other and they just don't want to talk to each other. And when they'd have an argument and like a blow up, my dad would just leave. Like he was a landscaper growing up. So he would say, oh, I'm going to go on estimates. He's going to go look at trees. Who knows? Maybe he was going to get a hand job. I still don't know where he went. But, and then like mom and me and my sister, sometimes my brother, we'd go to like Roosevelt Field, or we'd go to Ralph's Ices, or we'd go get like an iced coffee or something and then talk it out. So growing up, I never really like saw a guy talking about his feelings. And then I feel like I, dated a few guys who were maybe similar to him. And then I finally found like with my current boyfriend, like we talk about everything together, I feel like. But at the same time, like I wonder if Hotep meant like, you're not supposed to like cry, but I think it's good to talk, to communicate.
Yeah, for sure.
I would hate to think that a guy is in a relationship and doesn't feel like he can't express himself, because I don't think my dad could express himself with my mom. Like he would just say things under his breath, like all the time, like, when's it going to be my turn? Like,
Wow.
he seemed very like resentful of, I think, having a wife and kids. So,
Yeah, I think what Hotep was probably talking about is this idea of like emotional instability, right? Where when you're angry, you're yelling, when you're sad, you're crying, when you're horny, you're grabbing boobies, and all these different emotions and expressing them in the moment. And guys just can't do that. We're taught not to do that because it can be threatening.
okay, right. Like, so when a guy gets mad, it's like you're talking about emotional range. Like, the maddest I'm gonna get, and like if I were Italian, maybe that we'd move that over a little bit more. But like the maddest I'm gonna get is like maybe I'll yell like once a year.
Right.
Um, but like with guys, right? You move that over, like your emotional range. The maddest a guy could get would be like maybe he'd punch a wall, maybe he'd, and like over nothing, right? So, right. Plus, there is this expectation that like men have to hold it together emotionally. And also, I feel like it's tough too, because then there's this idea like, oh, well, the second a guy shows any emotion, now he's seen as a pussy, or like the idea that he's lost respect, which I don't like. But at the same time, like if I were with a guy who was like crying, I think I'd be like, come on, man, pull it together. Like,
Yeah. What if the Karen from the nail salon brought her husband in and he just started weeping?
I would be fine with that. I would much prefer, I can handle a sad person better than I can handle an angry person, because like like my dad was kind of like, he had a temper. So anytime somebody's angry, I freeze. But if a sad person, like I want to like give them a hug. No, I mean, I wouldn't have hugged this guy, but I would have been like, it's all right, buddy. See you later,
Yeah. Um, so I used to give dating advice to Mormon guys looking to get married, but I also had a
Wait, you're
single,
Mormon?
yeah.
Oh, wow. I could barely tell.
Is that a
You
compliment?
hide
I
it.
don't know.
Yes, it is. You hide it so well. Oh, sorry if I've been like dirtier than like,
Oh no,
okay.
be you, right? We've got the
Okay.
discretion dial up to
All
11.
right. Sorry, Mormons. I'm not trying to, be gross, but it's just how I am.
Oh, but what I was saying was I also had female advice seekers too. And I know on your various podcasts, you talk a lot about dating and relationships with your guests. Do you think relationships have changed much since COVID hit?
I think that they have, and it's tricky. Like, someone who is single and dating around would give you a much different answer. Like, I think if you've been in a relationship during COVID, like it's made or break. It was make or break for you. And I'm not the first person to say that. Like, we've all heard and seen articles like, oh, it's like people are not having as much sex over the pandemic, or like couples are spending more time together, and then it's like that's the catalyst for breaking up, because maybe the only thing that was keeping them together was the fact that both worked long hours, or they were never like in the house that much together. Like if my parents were in a pandemic situation, oh, I feel like they would have broken up, because my dad he was a landscaper and then he was a teamster. So he was like barely home. He would like come home to fall asleep, and that was the drill. And then eventually my mom went to work when I was in first grade. So I think, yeah, it's made or break for the couples, but I think it's been tougher on single people, because God, and also like the masking and vaccine issue has been like do or die for a lot of people, because if you're dating, it's like that's the first issue. Whereas if you were dating, like, I don't even 3 or 4 years ago, the masking thing, like, or politics might not even come up. Like, you could date several months or years before, and it depends like how political you are. You could have totally different politics, and you wouldn't come to blows over it. Whereas like now in like the pandemic, if a mask person would never date an anti-mask person, a pro, this vaccine, not all vaccines, but like if you're pro the COVID vaccine, you're not going to be anywhere near dating somebody who has natural immunity or just doesn't want it. So that's been really interesting. And I'd be interested to hear from a single person, like how they've navigated that.
Yeah.
But in a sense, maybe it makes it easier because it's like, if you can find somebody who's like, sees eye to eye with you now, well, then you're probably meant to be, because like, right, politics, religion, kids, I think those are the make or break, and money are the things that people like stay together
Yeah.
or break up about. And the pandemic kind of brings all of those things up, right? Like the churches were closed down. So if that was an issue to you, that would come out. The jab, like a lot of people didn't get it because they want to have kids still. So that came up. Like money, right? Did you get fired over this thing? Like many people got fired over not getting it, or were laid off. So it's been it's been a real challenge. It's pretty, and you don't realize it. You're like, oh wow, this tested a lot of people. And then you either rise to the occasion and you grow a thicker skin, or like we've seen, you break. You can't handle all of this. And then you're yelling in a nail salon.
That's a great example. What's one piece of advice or dating advice you'd give to men, and what's one piece of dating advice you give to women?
Ooh, okay. So for women, I think try to like have as many guy friends as possible. And I think hanging out with comedians has really helped me like get along with guys better, because I think it's women who just are friends with other women are really doing themselves a disservice, because you can like, I don't know, you need somebody to, there's something about just a group of women together that could like make you a little crazy. Like you need like men are, I'm obviously just stereotyping, but men are generally like very rational problem solvers, can kind of like shake you out of it. Whereas if you just hang out with women all the time, like you'll just be in your emotions, like you won't get anything done easily. And it's fun to gossip, but you need somebody to like pull you out of that sometimes. Like I think of it as like, if I go shopping at the mall by myself, like, oh, I could spend hours. Like I'll get lost. I'll just be smelling candles for an hour. Whereas like if I go with my boyfriend, he'll be like, all right, let's go. Come on. What do you smell every candle? Get out of here. And I feel like the best like man woman relationship is kind of like that, And I realized when I was dating him, like once I stopped like hoping and wishing he would pick up his socks, like when I went from that to actually just like seeing clothes on the floor, that annoys me. And then I just pick them up myself. And I'm like, oh, I guess it's working better. You know what I mean? Like once I let go of the idea that he needs to like be a neat, I was like, if I wanted to date a guy who was very neat and tidy, like I would date a gay dude, So I'm like, why don't I just like suck it up and pick up the clothes? Your original question was like a bit of advice. Yeah, I would say if you're a girl having trouble meeting guys, I think go to more comedy shows, and
Specifically your comedy shows.
Specifically, and buy my merch and buy my album that comes out, as much of, no, I'm kidding. I think being around like guys' sense of humor, and I think it helps you relate to men. I think that's why I have so many guy friends, is because like I joke around like a guy would. I think that's kind of probably like part how I was raised, part just doing comedy for like 12 years or something. And also I think like, obviously like make sure you're in like good, I mean, that's easy. Make sure you're in good shape, whatever. I think after the pandemic, like nobody's in good shape. And for guys, the power of a haircut, the power of a clean shirt, like a button down shirt really is kind of all you need, and a haircut, and boom, like you could get laid. Especially now, women are very desperate right now during this pandemic. I think a lot of women have dropped their like lofty standards in a very healthy way.
In a very healthy way.
Yeah, I think it humbled a lot of women, this pandemic. Like, oh, I like to travel. Like, I'm not gonna date some guy unless he flies me to Europe. And now it's like, girl, Like, you'd be happy if somebody like picks you up and takes you to Jersey, you know?
That's
I'm rambling. What's
hilarious.
the advice here? The advice here, if you're a guy, yeah, just get a haircut and a new shirt. If you're feeling like a lapse in I would say do the apps, but also just talk to women everywhere. Like talk to them online at the deli, talk to them, like just don't just put all your eggs in the internet basket,
Yeah.
because there's so many people who don't even mess with social media. And like women, I would say like, yeah, hang around more guys and have hobbies outside of wanting, like some women are like, I have to get married and start a family, which is great, but like you need to have outside interests, because if you obsess too much about those family goals, that will scare a guy off, and guys will immediately think like, oh man, like I guess I got to start paying for all this. It's scary. It's scary, like starting with like,
Yeah.
here's the part of me that you're gonna eventually like just be like fun. I don't know. I think I'm terrible at advice. I would just say like make sure you have other hobbies outside of like, you know, must reproduce, you know.
That's great.
Mhm.
Now, for a New Yorker, it seems like you're running in some pretty red circles these days. You chat with folks like Lauren Southern, Elijah Schaefer, Sydney Watson, Gavin McInnes. Now, that wasn't always the case, right?
No, it wasn't. It really all just like came together. Like, I got in contact with Gavin McInnes through Compound Media because he used to do a show on that network. So that was like kind of an easy introduction. And now he's done my podcast a number of times, and he's done one of my shows on Compound Media. He did like the Christmas special. He's so much fun and so smart. And at first I thought like having him on my shows would get me banned and like booted off things. And it hasn't happened, which is really great. And I like to kind of, not that he needs my help, but I like sort of talking to people that have been like canceled or buried or like shunned by society, like within reason. Like I have no sympathy for like somebody who's like, you know, committed a, you know, like a pedo or like a murderer. Like I would never like be like, let's lift these
Right.
voices up. Of course not. I'm just like, people just call Gavin McInnes like alt-right, and it's like, because people don't understand like the real story with the Proud Boys. It was started as a joke, and then it became this thing, this kind of like answer to Antifa. Like at first the Proud Boys would just be escorting speakers like such as Ann Coulter or like a Ben Shapiro. They'd escort them to their college gigs so they wouldn't get like attacked by crazy college students. So it feels good to help clear up some of the misunderstanding around these like so-called canceled people. Like Lauren Southern is another example of people just, if you Google her, you think the worst of her, but you talk to her and she's like this beautiful, intelligent, quick-witted, like wonderful girl who I love, you know, have had her on Simcast, I've had her on my regular podcast, and she's just incredible and so impressive. Like she's pretty young, but she's already a mom. She's already like kind of traveled around the world doing these documentaries. Like she's followed, I don't know if it was like sex trafficking or at the border. She's gone to like the border a few times. She's gone to like, you know, different like Latin American countries. Like she just has balls on her. And I think she just travels like by herself or with a small team. Like she's pretty low maintenance, but she just gets a lot done. So I really admire that about her. And yeah, it also feels fun to like, you know, it feels like I'm thinking for myself. Like I'm not going to, like we've all, you know, what we've heard about Milo Yiannopoulos. He's another one I tried to get on, but he canceled on me twice, and he's like kind of flaky and but so entertaining, you know. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'll have him on. I'll have a conversation rather than just like, you know, you read what the internet thinks, and then it's nice to be able to make up your own mind. And I think
Yeah.
I hope that I can do that for other people. Hi, Muffin.
Hey, there's your dog.
Hey, Muffin. Do you want to be on TV? No, we just want pets. So I don't know if that makes sense or answers
Yeah, for
the
sure.
question.
I guess my last question is, how do I get my wife on Simpcast?
Ah, send me some nudes. No.
Yeah, okay. Some OnlyFans butt
Why
shots.
does she need more simps? Does she could she use some more simps in her
Oh, she's
life?
got a number one simp in her life, and that's me. But I
Aw.
think she really admires, you know, all the gals that you have on your show, and she really would freeze in front of a camera. Honestly, she's
Oh,
not really that type, but I think it'd be fun to have her mix it up with all of you.
that would be Yeah, well, be prepared because sometimes, people start sending simpy messages and then we like post the simpy messages. Like sometimes, I mean, we're not going to post like if somebody sends like a dick pic or something. I definitely don't encourage that. So, yeah, I
At
mean, like
least, at least not directly, right? You might hint at it, but not you're not asking for it directly. For
oh my God, isn't it crazy? Imagine if like it was back in the day and you had to like print out a photo of your penis and then hand it to somebody. Like, like back in my day, we didn't have text messaging. I had to sit by the printer, print out a photo, and then hand it to a lady and be
I
like,
had to
let me
carve it
know
in
what, yeah,
stone,
let me know what you think. Yeah, I had to carve a picture of my dick into a rock. It took weeks and then I presented it to her.
and she just laughed.
Yeah, hieroglyphics. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
that's
my
hilarious.
God.
Well, Chrissy, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. Where can people find you and all your projects?
Yeah, just check out chrissiemayr.com. It's my website where I have just like my dates for comedy and my bio and such. My podcast, Chrissie Mayr Podcast, is on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud. My Instagram is Chrissie Mayr Pod. My Twitter is at Chrissie Mayr. I'm on Rockfin. I am on Getter, although I'm like losing a little bit of faith in Getter. Like I'm seeing signs that it is not the free speech platform that we have been promised. I think they've been like censoring a few people here and there. But I am excited to see what Trump, brings with his new platform. I think it's called like Truth or something like that. I know it's coming out next month sometime. So, and also I do a show called I know this is like, I don't know if this is a Mormon audience, but I do a show called The Wet Spot. It's on Compound Media. We'll have like comedians on and like we'll joke around about that kind of stuff.
This is
So
not
if
a
you're
Mormon
into that,
audience. Our primary
okay.
audience is people who play dodgeball.
Oh, good. I have a dodgeball podcast coming out next month. No, I wish. And then Wet Spots on Compound Media Mondays at 7:30 Eastern. That's a fun show. And then my regular podcast. And I think that's it. I think that's all the things. And check me out Fridays on Friday Night Tights, starting at 4:30, 5 o'clock Eastern on the Nerdrotics channel on YouTube.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Oh, thank you so much.